Who is using ChatGPT every day? Whoa, that's 60% of you. How many people are using it every week? At least once a week. That's probably the remaining. How many people are not using it every day or every week yet? Oh, okay, they must be the Swedes, I guess. It wouldn't be Norwegians. Okay. So, let's kick this off. I actually did this image 10 minutes before we started with Midjourney. That's how clever I am. Let's run this, but I don't want the duplication. Alrighty. Let's kick off. My name's Adam Cogan, and this talk that I have written is called Rules to Better ChatGPT, and I have been speaking at NDC for so long. I've been speaking at Microsoft conferences for over 20 years now, and this is the coolest API I have ever come across. It's really going to change everything we do. It's phenomenal. I've structured my talk in this manner. I have just going to get you up to speed with some news. There's a lot of news. In fact, unfortunately, this talk will be out of date in a couple of weeks. Everything's changing a lot. I wrote this talk on 3.5, and then everything had to be rewritten for 4. Then I want to get you up to speed with prompt engineering. How many people here are prompt engineers? Okay, 4. Okay, there'll be more soon. Then I want to get you up to speed with the GPT service, and then I want to talk to you about embeddings and the rules bot that we wrote, and talking about the future. We'll do a bit of pontificating. So this is me. I'm a Microsoft Regional Director. There's a few of us in Australia. There's a few in every country around the world. I'm also the Chief Architect at SSW. We have offices in Australia, China, and Strasbourg, France. Now, I also blog at adamcogan.com. Since I've been coming to Norway, getting to know the Norwegian culture, Troy Hunt and I got Jacob to take the conference to Australia, and we love the NDC conference. It's the best Microsoft conference we have. A lot of fun, and the Viking culture has taken over. There is a photo just 2 weeks ago, us, half our office there, dressed up.
That's so Norwegian.
Oh. That photo will be deleted from the recording, so you only just got to see that one. I spent a lot of my time writing these rules. I wrote the first several hundred by myself, and now we have a team getting close to 100 now. Engineers writing these rules all the time about .NET, about APIs, how to run projects, how to do Scrum, everything. Everything we do is in here. And I'm going to talk about that as we go. But I have one of the guys in the office just recorded this to convince you guys to come and visit us. So.
G'day. Keita's mustard to see you down in the lucky country. Welcome to Australia. Let me show you around. I reckon yous are gonna love it here. Let's take a gander. From Bunnings to Bondi, Daintree to desert, to a really big rock. Australia has something for everyone. You could visit the Opera House and take a walk along Sydney Harbour. Enjoy our unique wildlife while exploring our national parks. Then eat them. Go surfing in the Sunshine Coast or catch a tram in Melbourne's vibrant nightlife. Whatever you choose, we'll be ready to throw another snag on the barbie for yous. Australia, take a punt. Just don't be a
All right. Thank you, Luke, for that. All right. So, if you want, we have this system on all our videos, on our YouTube videos, that you can scan this, you get the app, and then at the end of this talk, I'll give you another QR code, you get 1,000 points. We send out a lot of these bands and other prizes. So let's jump into the news. The first piece of news is our favorite tool, the ChatGPT bot, is getting all these extensions. So it wasn't able to give you an answer before, a couple of years ago when the model was built. So it was 2 years old data. Now, if you install this browsing extension, you can say, who won the Oscar? And it will tell you this year's answer. In addition, you'll see a whole bunch of these coming. One is called the code interpreter. If you install that and then you upload, say, a CSV file or a Python script, it will turn it into this. So a plain CSV file will turn into a chart and a little summary. Okay? How many people have watched the stuff that came out of Build just in the last 2 days? Okay, only a few of us. Okay, so probably less than 2 or 3% of the room. Everything is changing. Everything's in Windows. Every Office user making a Word doc, you'll be using ChatGPT, or you'll be using the AI services inside Office. Making a PowerPoint will be auto-generated. As a coder, where we have Copilot, and it's doing a lot of the work for us. Now, I'll quickly just show you what I'm talking about, just so you get a very quick idea.
I can never remember how to get the item from the rack. Now, that's not what we want here, but if we give it a little bit more information like this, oh, yeah, it's on the body. Whenever I'm working in React, I tend to...
So whether you're in C# or you're in React, you're just typing comments and the code is being put there.
I forget things like, how do I add an inline style to like an H1 tag? But what you can do is just add a comment with the control/ here and just say an H1 with inline style. You don't even have to spell it right. And there you go. And it's super helpful in CSS. I can never remember how to highlight a list item when it...
So he's just putting a comment here. He's looking at the output here, and he wants to, what does he want to do? Highlight a list item.
A user mouses over it,
okay.
But Copilot knows, or things like I can never remember how to get rid of the bullets.
So he wants to get rid of these bullets now. He's added a rollover. He's just putting a comment.
In the list. Again, you don't have to spell this correctly.
And they're gone.
Copilot knows. And finally, the thing that nobody can remember.
Horizontally and vertically, center this. There, it's centered. All right? So you're going to get a lot of help with any of that stuff that you're doing. It's very impressive. We're right at the cusp where most people aren't using these tools, where you can really do like half an hour of work and you've done more than you would normally do in a day and you could have a break, right? But you wouldn't do that. But you could. Now, inside Microsoft, they keep talking about the developer acceptance rate. They want the more and more of the suggestions they give you to be accepted. And they keep looking at all these stats. What they're doing now, because when you, like GPT is essentially a transformer that works out what we just said and picks the next word. It's really just an autocomplete. That is minimizing what it does, but that's the guts of it. Now, inside code, it has been looking at what code we had and suggesting code we should do from here. But what they're doing now is something called FIM, fill in the middle, where they're looking at the code there and the code here, and it's getting more and more accurate, and their developers are taking the suggestions more and more. So you can read that article. It talks a lot about all that. I think it's pretty cool. If you're not a C# guy, then you might be more interested in Code Whisperer from AWS. You can look down the pros and cons. Like if you're a C# guy here, you're going to care about Copilot more. If you're an AWS Lambda guy, you'll care more about Amazon. How many people here would care more about Copilot? Okay, that looks to be 90% of the room. How many people would care more about Code Whisperer? Poor AWS, they don't have anyone in Norway that likes them. That is amazing. I didn't expect that answer. All right. There's stuff beyond coding and office knowledge workers. They're the data guys. And I'm going to tell you this, Microsoft bought Synapse, and if you look at what they've just announced in the last day, this is probably going to be seen, back in time when we are in the future, that this is as big as when Microsoft bought SQL Server, right? I know some of you are saying, what, they bought SQL Server? Yeah, Microsoft buy a lot of things that are cool. So they bought Synapse. It's now called Fabric. Fabric is bloody cool. I'll just quickly get you up to speed with this. But basically, they're trying to get you to have a data lake per organization. And you can read all this. It's pretty amazing. I'll just play one little bit so you can see it.
Next generation AI in Microsoft Fabric empowers you to unlock the full potential of your data. With Copilot integrated into every data experience, Microsoft Fabric lets you use natural language to bring your data to life. From integrating data to writing code, to finding insights and creating reports, new transformative AI experiences work alongside you every step of the way, so you can stay focused on getting value from your data. Copilot helps turn your words into data flows and data pipelines, so you can intelligently integrate data from anywhere. When writing code, Copilot automatically suggests code and entire functions in real time. And Copilot can guide you to create machine learning models to unlock insights in your data. Just by chatting with Copilot, you can visually explore your data to create stunning reports, discover insights, and summarize your data into easy-to-understand text narratives for sharing. With Copilot, you can turn insight into action with triggers that monitor your data and notify users. You can even create your own custom natural language experiences that combine Azure OpenAI models and your organization's data, and easily publish your creations as plugins. And with your data in Fabric, Copilot provides insights and answers everywhere. Easily publish your...
You see this? You type a question and it generates the SQL, okay? Anyone can be a SQL Server programmer now.
Creations as plugins. And with your data in Fabric, Copilot provides insights and answers everywhere work gets done. Most importantly, Microsoft Cloud runs on trust.
All right, enough of that. But I think that gives you a bit of an idea. How many people here are data people, data guys? So almost no one, probably 5%. How many people think this is bloody cool? Almost everyone. Yeah, it's the stuff coming out is phenomenal. Now there was some talk here about how Microsoft disbanded their safety team, their AI safety team. Big news. And obviously this stuff was received poorly. They have clarified what happened, that they decided not to have one big team that did this. Don't you love all these pop-up ads? I thought like you guys in the EU stopped all this. Obviously not very well. Now, it basically says, look, we got rid of one monster team and that we decided to do it since everybody's doing AI and there's so many teams, we allocated all those people across all the teams. So it's exactly what we do with privacy, security, accessibility. They all have individuals in those teams, and that's how they're doing it now. Just thought I might tell you that. And in case you thought GPT-5 was coming, it sounds like it's not coming for a fair while. Sam Altman is making sure that nobody gets any more freaked out than we already are, and he says we haven't even done any training on it, so don't worry about it. Let's get into prompt engineering. Prompt engineering, we go to ChatGPT and we start typing away. What is NDC? Well, it's a Norwegian developers conference, blah, 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 okay? In fact, there's a cooler way. You should all install the shortcut on your phone, and you can install a shortcut, and I can just say, hey Siri. Oh. Hey Siri just started calling someone, I don't know why. GPT mode. GPT mode. Oh, I've turned off the speaker so I can't hear anything. That would be why. Hey Siri. GPT mode.
Here's some information.
Works perfectly.
Here's what I found.
Hey Siri. GPT mode.
What's the text?
What are the top 10 happiest countries in the world? And be brief.
One moment.
Must be using GPT-4.
Still working. Working on that.
This is faster in Australia.
As an AI language model, I do not have emotions, but here are the top 10 happiest countries in the world according to the 2021 World Happiness Report. 1. Finland. It has a comprehensive social welfare system and high levels of trust and equality. 2. Denmark. It has a strong
That wasn't very good.
It's nice to have one's work appreciated.
GPT mode. GPT mode.
What's the text?
What are the top 10 happiest countries in the world, and be brief?
One moment. Working on that. I'm having trouble with the connection. Let's try again later.
All right, okay. As you can see, that's awesome. But I usually enjoy that at dinner parties. It's fun. Anyway, all right. Now, you can go to the fridge and say, look, I've got chicken, asparagus, and tomatoes. What can I make? And it will just tell you what's there. You can say, hey, I hit this error. What do I do with this null reference exception? Now, I want you to understand this is not the right way to ask questions. Okay? You don't say, how do I fix this bug, and paste it. Okay? If you want good answers, you've got to be a good prompt engineer and say, act as a senior software engineer. How do I fix this when running my C# project in Visual Studio? And then give it that. You'll get way better answers. Be aware, just recently, act as sometimes turns into funny mode. It thinks it's being, it's asking you to be humorous. So then you have to say, I am a senior engineer. So, you'll work these things out. Also, GPT is heavily influenceable. And so you don't say, isn't it true that electric cars are better than gasoline cars? You have to say something like, what are the benefits and drawbacks of electric versus gasoline? Okay? Just never influence it. It's very easy. So basically, you got to know role, the result that you want. I want 5 email subjects because I'm about to send an email to a lot of very important people across the entire company. The email is to tell all the developers at the company about a UX problem with search. And we want them to watch this YouTube video I've recorded and give me some feedback. And then you say, make it less than 50 characters. That's the constraint. So it's a little bit like when we learnt select, from, where, join. You've got to know this style of prompting. Because this is going to mean that, you saw I created an image before the presentation and I've never used Photoshop, right? A marketing assistant is essentially going to be a prompt engineer. A content writer, the same thing. Social media manager, graphic designers, they're going to be prompt engineers. Like, you can use DALL-E, Midjourney, or Stable Diffusion. They're all phenomenal. Scenographers, gone. Even pop stars are just going to be prompt engineers. You can just generate this stuff. Okay? Software developers, we're finished. And woodworkers are going to remain woodworkers. Okay? So I went onto Australia's leading job site and I typed in prompt engineer and it said no matching search results. I was shocked. I promise you, in 6 months' time, this is going to have thousands. Look, if I type in .NET developer, like a specific type, you get a couple of thousand jobs. Prompt engineering is going to be a big thing. So you need to teach people to have a role. What am I? I'm a GitHub Actions expert, so tell me what I should do here. Be careful to keep telling it to be concise because it just rambles on. I like it to answer in bullet points or give me the top 10 or something. If you're getting it to do emails, it's good to say, be professional, be funny. I usually use, be humorous. And you've got to be careful about confidential information. I don't know if this is the right complete fix to the whole thing, but we're a consulting company and we want to use it on all our projects. So we just did this and we sent it out to all our clients that we just add an extra clause, use of AI technologies. You authorize us to do this. In fact, I don't need to read that. I'm just getting used to this mouse. So read selection aloud.
The client authorizes SSW to use such artificial intelligence technologies, e.g. ChatGPT, as SSW considers appropriate in the conduct of the work. The client must notify SSW if it does not wish SSW to so use in respect of any of the work.
All right. And let me tell you, and many did. They notified us, as you will experience. They want you to keep working very slow, which is fine if you're on an hourly basis. Now, the best thing about this is how it keeps context, and you do a bit and then you learn. So you can say, create me a guide with a headline and teaser. Now create 5 subtopics. Now add 3 techniques of each. So it keeps growing it as you keep looking at it, and it will even critique it for usability and correct itself after it's generated. Or you can do, I call this doing super prompting. I'm not sure what the proper term is, but you just put it all together in one go, and then you get your answer. And you'll get better and better at this, and as soon as you do this, you just correct it. So I made these cheat sheets, which I'll give you at the end. But I've got a whole lot of these cheat sheets. I put them in every one of the toilets at SSW. I really did. And then I created a cheat sheet for Dev Edition. So I got both of them for you. And you can grab them at the end. But this is for writing code. This is for debugging. This is for understanding code, documenting code, refactoring, etc. So it's you can grab it from the URL down here, or you can get physical copies if you want. All right. And we have a whole lot of these, and they all were generated from these rules. Okay. So I want to tell you my problem. I'm using ChatGPT all the time, and I think it's bloody awesome. So I wanted to work out what I could do to use all these rules and get the benefits of ChatGPT. So I went on this little journey trying to integrate these, and I'm going to talk about all these. But these rules that we have, they're all here. They're just open sourced. And there's thousands of them. And yeah, we have a whole bunch of the company writing rules on this, okay? And you can submit rules and changes too. So let's get up to speed with the GPT service, not the bot, the service. So it's a large language model. How do we work out what it is? Well, we say, give me 5 dot points on GPT. It'll say it's a transformer. It works, it's magic because it got heaps of text, like basically the whole internet. And it predicts the next most probable word. Not only does it do language generation, it does translation and understanding. So it's pretty phenomenal. Now, it is 7 years old. Did you know that? Feels like it just came out a year ago. It's now owned 49% by Microsoft. This has got to be the deal of the century. This is phenomenal. And we have the chatbot, which you won't believe was written by one guy. So they have a whole team at OpenAI working on this large language model. They've got Johnny in the corner doing some bot, which no one cared about. No one thought it was that going to be popular. Even Sam Altman said, I didn't even think it was going to be popular when we released it. That's why we didn't do any social media. We didn't do anything. We just put it up there. Because they were releasing 3.5, which they thought wasn't that awesome because they already had 4. And so they threw it out there just to see any feedback. and wow, it blew up. So let's talk about the API. The best API we've ever had. It does natural language processing, image generation, and speech recognition. What's the name of the model here? How many people know the name of the model? A few. It's called GPT-4, okay? And what's the name of the model for image generation? DALL-E. And the one for speech recognition? Whisper. Great. All right. So what you should all do now is scan this QR code, because the more all these extensions that are coming out, you're going to need your own API, okay? And you're going to need your own key to plug into all these extensions. And we're going to use this little guy later. But when you scan that QR code, you go to a site, you press create new secret key. You can give it a name, whatever one you're using at that time. For example, we'll say SSW rules here. You create the secret key, you copy this guy, and we're going to use it later. All right. So one of the things that you will decide, if you're going to build something like what I'm going to show you inside your company, you're either going to ask them to all enter their key to use GPT-4, because GPT-4 is more expensive than GPT 3.5. It's about 30 times more expensive. So it's substantial. And you're going to have to decide how you... So throughout a company, I guess if it's a rich company, I know you guys are from Norway, most of you. You're pretty rich. Well, you used to be rich until they all went to Switzerland, didn't they? Yeah, but anyway, at least some of the companies might decide we're just going to pay for this and let all our users not bother about keys. And but what you're going to find is 3.5 is pretty bloody good as it is. Maybe not good enough. You'll make that call and we'll talk about that. So you're either going to ask them for their key, or you're going to have code where you're using Azure AD, okay? So this is kind of the way we did it, and you'll see what I did later on, but you can use our key, or you can put in your key and use 4, okay? So these are the 6 things you're going to need to know if you're going to build a solution on this. You're going to need to know what hosting, okay? You got 2. The API, the tokens, temperature, and the playground and mucking around with the system message, okay? And embeddings. All right, so you've got 2 choices. Are you going to use openai.com, which runs on Azure, or are you going to use Azure's OpenAI service, which also runs on Azure, and it's using OpenAI's models, right? It's all basically the same thing, backwards. Whichever one you choose, you're going to have the same experience, and you're going to fine-tune your models, and you're going to try to work out which one do I use. Now, this is a funny first question. The billing is almost identical. Azure is cheaper for very large workloads, and there's a post here I put here for you to read about it, but it's cheaper for big ones. You're probably going to, if you're a .NET person and you want to use like the NuGet packages, you'll get the benefit of that, so that would probably be a good one. If you're very familiar with Azure Virtual Networks or Azure Key Vault or Azure Monitor or Azure AD, you'll probably want the Azure option, okay? Azure has a wait list, but OpenAI you can get straight away, but only 3.5. And then you have to do a wait list for 4. Now 3.5 is very fast and stupid, okay? 4 is slow and expensive, but very solid, okay? So you're going to, look, I shouldn't say 3.5 is stupid. I should say it's super easy to influence and gives you bogus answers sometimes, which is annoying. So you can say, what's the difference of OpenAI versus, so it's all embedded in Bing Chat. So you may as well switch. How many people have felt that they've switched to Bing because they've got ChatGPT built in? Not many. Maybe 10%. Well, I think the more that you use it, the more you'll realize that that benefit is huge. But then Google are doing good things with Bard as well, okay? I would say, like, I've obviously used GPT a lot more than Bard, but it seems Bard has good first impressions. But the more you use it, it seems worse in almost every way. Okay, but who knows? Anyway, you've got these APIs that you've got to know and love. In the request body, you've got model messages, and I want to just drill down into the messages because you've got a role. The role is system, user, or assistant. If you are passing a message, you type a message, what are the happiest countries? You're passing it as a user, and then the response comes back is the assistant. The system bit is the magic, and we're going to come to that, but that is the default one that's there that makes the messages better. Okay, make the responses better, and allows people to use it, and in your company just type very small messages and they'll get a good answer back. The other thing to be aware of is tokens. Tokens is how much you can pass in and get back. You'll start using this thing called a token tester. Token is essentially a word. Every word is a token. If you look closely, there's many that are 2. See this interconnects? That one is 3 tokens. You'll start learning how this works, but it's essentially 4,000 words. Now, these 4,000 tokens for 3.5 raised to 8,000 for GPT-4, and for the 32K version, 32,000 tokens. You can see within 6 months, this is going to get big. I can see a future where you're passing in a gig. These are growing pretty quick. You've also then got to think about the temperature. What's the temperature? The temperature is, if you use Bing and you ask a question down here, you'll see this bit here. See this bit? Well, let's drill into this. This little guy is more creative or more balanced or more precise. Most of you will just leave it at default, but when you're wanting to make a cool, funny, speech for someone, you can use more creative and it gets fun. Those numbers range from 0 to 2 that you can pass in, and that would mean creative is 2, balanced is 1, and more precise is 0. Now, if you start using it, you'll learn very quickly that 2 becomes ridiculous. If you say speakers write a happy birthday message, speakers a Viking, it becomes nonsensical. So we don't know what these numbers are, but you can guess it's something around 1.8, 1, and 0.2. You can't get to the extremes. Now, as an example, I just said, what is Adam Cogan from SSW doing today? And it said, I'm sorry, I can't find any information what his plans are for today. He's the chief architect at SSW. Is there anything else you'd like to know? Because it doesn't know. If you choose more balanced, it's almost the same. What is he doing today? He will, he's the chief architect here. He works on all these type of solutions. I don't know what he's doing today. What can I help you with, right? If you say get creative, it starts saying, look, he's the chief architect. He works on custom solution. He's one of 2 Microsoft regional directors. He blogs at this. He interviews for this TV show. I don't know exactly what he's doing, but he's based in Sydney. So he might be working on a project with his team or clients or attending some events. He might be swimming at Bondi Icebergs. So it's gone off to different sites and is aggregating stuff and making stuff up, okay? Now, when you start using the Azure AI Studio, you'll see that it's broken down into the setup, the chat session, and the configuration. You'll go straight for the chat and you'll start typing these user messages down here. But I want you to focus on this part. This is the setup. And this setup is where you say, hey, like if you're making a bot for a doctor, it better be serious, right? If generally inside a company you want it to be fun, depending on what type of persona you want, you need to add a whole lot of reference data and examples of what type of responses you want. Like I want a URL, or I want it in bullet points, or I want certain formatting. I want it in table form. So that's the system message. Now, when you're using the playground to start testing this, so we have this concept in our company, which is called a V2 email. As soon as somebody types an email and they've made a mistake, this is for new employees, we just teach them that if you made a mistake, don't reply and say, oh, sorry, here's the attachment. And by the way, I said that I was happy to do it. I meant I was not happy. I just forgot. And you know how people do that? We just teach them. We just start again and you do V2, right? And you just put V2 at the top and forget the other one. Now, we just want them to write that and it to work. For that to work, you really need to make sure your system message is right, and you'll refine this. So for example, we'll say, you're the bot, okay? You're friendly and you're funny. We want you to be, we'll come to this, but you set this all up via a database, okay? And we'll get to this. But the important thing is the experience. How do I write a V2 email? Sometimes you'll need a V2 email for two reasons, for this or this. And here are what you need to do. Go to your send items, go resend, blah, 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 okay? Whatever instructions you have. And you go round and round and round and you keep playing with this until it's right. So in short, right now, you understand the hosting options, the API, the tokens, the temperature, and the playground, right? Now we have to talk about embeddings. How many people here are familiar with embeddings? I've got about 8 of several hundred, so not too many. So this is the problem I got to. I wanted, like everybody comes to me because they can't find rules and things. And I'm not scalable, so I thought I want to combine ChatGPT with the wisdom of the rules. So I wanted it to work like this. And this is how it works. How do I send a V2 email? Just a new employee. It gives them the answer and links off to the rule. Okay, so you're going to have an intranet full of stuff, and you just want to be able to have nice conversations. Now, obviously, these type of things are going to be existing on almost every site for every business. You're going to go to a travel agent, and if they don't have a bot where you can quickly ask questions, I want to get a flight to the Canary Islands next month. What have you got? You want quick answers. You don't want to be doing all the searching and stuff. So, and they'd click on that link and they'd end up on the rule. That's the experience we're after. So let's talk about these embeddings. All right. Now, these embeddings, now, by the way, this is how I would have done things for the last 20 years. I would just go to Google Images, find an image that kind of represents what I'm thinking about. I want you to understand embeddings. So I'd go there and do this. You know what I do now? It takes me about 20 seconds, is I go, oh, can you make me an image and I want it to do this? Very similar to what I'd put in Google Images. And I then say, but I want it in these colors because I want it in certain company colors and stuff. I'm really happy. I think this is awesome. We don't need any more graphic designers anymore. So, explain the concept of embeddings so simply that an idiot could understand. Not that I am one, this is merely hypothetical. Now, I've put that in because GPT seems to remember things all the time, so I don't want it to remember I'm an idiot. So, because this is a weird, this embeddings is a bit unusual for us. Imagine you got a box of differently shaped and coloured Legos, blah, blah, blah. It's kind of describing this. You got shapes and you got colours and you've got this, okay? So you got red over here, you got blue over here, you got squares. Now this isn't a very good explanation of what embeddings are when you get down. It's very simple. I also made this thing. Give me a picture of 1,536 dimensions and look what I got. I'm so clever. Anyway. So it's not a 2D thing, it's not a 3D thing, it's not 4D, it's 1,536 dimensions, and that's called a vector. And then it uses cosine, which you might remember from high school, but it finds it finds stuff in similarity groups. Now, for example, see this term here? This is really on our rules, it's daily scrum. It breaks that up into 1,500 of these numbers. Okay, and they will be the vector, and they will go into a database. So you've got to pre-generate all your vectors, which we did for all the rules, and then you compare them. And by the way, I generated this image too. There's another image visualizing embeddings. So then we took that 1,500 concept and ran a Python library that flattens it out, and that is where that rule sits. That rule, email sender v2, sits right here. And the rules around it are going to be similarly talking about fixing mistakes and stuff. So there's the Python library if you want it. But if you look for Scrum Guide, here's another one. See all the red? That means very close to that term. So there's a whole bunch of rules that keep referring to Scrum. Isn't that cool? So that's going to be your intranet. Now, these embeddings can be used for disorganized documents where you can group them to technology, entertainment, sports. These are used for Google. It groups all these things in a similar manner. And there's I put an article here so you can read about how it does it. When you're using Netflix and you look down here and you say, because you watch Narcos, if you watch Narcos, it recommends this, the same type of concept, all this embeddings concept. I found this fascinating. Now, unlike you guys, I don't speak a second language, or 3, 4, yes. I saw this Norwegian and Swede talking earlier today, just chatting to each other, and I said, how much are you understanding? About 90%, and they're very happy. Amazing, I didn't realize. So this fall and that the Chinese character or whatever, they all sit together. So they all sit in their vector in the same area. So it's going to be awesome for translations and stuff. And obviously you know about embeddings because you use ChatGPT. Okay. Now let's talk about the database. How many people have used a vector database? 4. Okay. Not many. So you're not going to use SQL Server for this job, okay? Unless you want it to be really slow. Now these vector databases have cosine similarity built in. There's Pinecone, Milvus, Postgres. There's Redis. There's many of these. You can go into SQL Server and create a Postgres one and use that. We've tested Superbase. It was very good. But essentially, this is what it has in it. It has this vector, and this has all the dimensions, the 1,500 dimensions in here. That's what it looks like. And we're going to use that. So we're going to integrate that embeddings database with GPT. So let's have a look at how this works. How do I send a V2 email? And you'll get your answer back. Okay? Very nice. Now, the next thing you're going to think about is, do I use 3.5, basically free, or are you going to use 4? Now, GPT 3.5, it's like a crappy fast car, okay? It will give you an answer, and it's decent, and you might be very happy because it's pretty good. But if you do the exact same thing and you're prepared to spend some dollars with GPT, you'll see it will give you a link to a video. It puts in a nicer formatting. It's a little bit nicer, okay? Here's another one. What's let's just imagine an employee was to ask, how do I use Scrum within the company? 3.5 will give you a decent area. It'll link off to, we have a rule about 8 steps to Scrum. It will give some answers here. If you ask the same thing here, remember when we told it to be funny? GPT-4 seems funnier, if that's important to you. Okay, and the answers have a little bit more humor in all of them. Now, what if I search this? Like, obviously no engineer should type this on our corpus of data. Show me the rules to better woodworking. GPT 3.5 is an alpha liar. It just makes up crap. We don't have any rules to better woodworking. I don't know. Yes, we are about to, for when we're not doing anything. So, show me the rules to better woodworking. It says, look, sorry about that. We don't have any rules about woodworking. But hey, safety first. Keep your workspace clean, measure twice, cut once, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So, it's a much better answer if you really care about this. All right. Now, it also, draft an email for colleagues to change some content because their profile is wrong. It made up a wrong URL here. So it's annoying. Okay? Maybe we're going to be forced to use 4. And this is the better answer for the same question. And it says, hey, and it drafts up the actual email. Here's the subject. Here's the body you should use, etc. All right. Now, if you would like, you can now go in and try this. I will just jump to it. So you go into here, and we have a little... This was the old way. So people would click on these and browse through here, etc. Now we have... Is it obvious to you the UI to get to ChatGPT? Who can see it? Oh, less than 10. All right, this UI is not Norwegian friendly, obviously, but over here is the rules GPT mode. So now this is the new experience of using it. So I can come in here and I can say, I don't know, V2 email, and it will go off and use and give me an answer. Hopefully it will look in our corpus of rules and give me something. Hey, ahoy there. See, it's funny. Ahoy there. So you're wondering about this. Well, sometimes you need a new version. Here's the rule, blah, blah, blah. Now I want you to see, we put this dark and light mode because we know in Norway sometimes you're either all dark or all light, so you might need that. Now, this is how you're going to have to handle the key. I don't know how you want to do it, but you can use the default one, which is 3.5, which you'll probably offer to all your users. And inside your company, you might make a decision that your corpus of data should be always on 4 because you want it good, okay? And I've given some commentary here, so it's very clear. Or you might want to just use your own key because you sources. Okay. So if you can see that's the answer there. But if I was to switch that key to 4, oh yes, I'd have to go and get the key now. Then you'd get a better answer. All right. So under the covers, they're typing a prompt. The API is looking up the embeddings database. It is finding what you just searched for, and then it's finding the rules around that, or the documents, in your case, around that, updating the system prompt, sending the user message with the system prompt to the API, to the ChatGPT API, and then that app that you just saw, that's a Blazor app, okay? Because we like C#, so we did in Blazor. And that's pretty much how it works. Now, I want you to think about something. That's probably 2 developers, 2 weeks. Like, is that reasonable? Like, you've seen what you have to do. It's not that bad. We can give you the code, so you probably do it faster. But for us, it took 2 developers 2 weeks, say $200 an hour. Or maybe you have to reduce it now because you don't have any rich people to pay you. But that's about in our ballpark in Australia. And then you've got to focus on the ongoing costs, okay? The API costs. Now that's about $40 a month just for us. Now, in fact, I will give you the real numbers because this one is tricky. Now for us, every single employee in our company is using this, okay? Now, I kind of, when you're going into a very large company, you understand there's a lot of people here. I don't know how many sessions. They charge this based on a session. There's a big document on what sessions are, but it's essentially a conversation. So you jump in, it's like picking up the phone, we'll have a conversation, you put it down, that's the end. That's the charge, right? So the way we did it is, okay, so we've got 100 employees. We hope that they'll be using it twice a day. That's 200, and there's 20 days in a month, okay? So 4,000 sessions I think we're going to have to estimate for, okay? Now, that was our costs for the last month, $7. This is not very realistic, by the way. This is going to get, and don't forget, if this was 4, and we weren't scummy, and we gave them all 4, that'd be times 30. It gets a lot more expensive. Now, I don't like talking about costs because all these costs are pretty flimsy, but I want you to know about it. Okay. Now, I want you to know there is another way of doing this. I call this the Viking option, all right? This isn't for everyone, but you know, what are Vikings like? They're very productive. They like a lot of gold and mead and women, but we won't talk about that. There is an option that was released 2 days ago at the Build conference. It's called Microsoft Power Virtual Agents, or Microsoft PVAs. Okay, it's not as good as like Power BI, is it? They should have just called it Power Bots or something. But this is something you might want to get your head around. Okay, this is the productivity mode. There is a great video here. I will let you play it at your own convenience. But you come in here, and this is what you do. You click on Create Bot. And when we tried it, this was here, but today this button disappeared and went into here. So this is now done. So that one is now changed. It's now over there. It's no longer a preview, it's the thing. So you come in here and you give it a name, and then you give it your corpus of data. In our case, for me, it was the rules. We did this, we used this, and it was super cool. Now, the example that they have is they're giving 3 corpuses of data here. So a public website, a OneDrive thing from the company, and a SharePoint thing from the company. So that's their intranet and all their document library. Throw it all together, and you're instantly asking questions. I couldn't believe it. You can ask questions straight away, and you are getting these answers after all that work we did, all right? Sometimes. Now, I do want you to understand, Microsoft have been working on this for obviously some time, well before GPT, I guess. Okay, they've had this product for a while, but it wasn't working in this mode that I'm showing you it in. Now, essentially, if you look at it carefully, it just gets the question and then gives you the answer, the link. It's not as free-flowing as the big answers I was giving you using ChatGPT, right? Or using the GPT service. Now, that was working. If you want it to work better, let's just say people are asking about, say, the weather. Like you're selling tickets, and they go, oh, I want to go to the Canary Islands, and I hope the weather next week is good, blah, blah, blah. You go, oh, they keep asking about the weather. We'll have to put an extra plug in here for the weather, and then you put that in, and then you put in your parameters. You can see a knowledge worker can do this. You're not actually dealing with an API. This is pretty bloody good. Now, I did want to warn you, because some of you might have seen the old version of the PVAs, and they were using Lewis, and they were using Azure Bot service, and there was a lot of complexity. So if you have this in your head, this is gone. This doesn't exist anymore, okay, as of 2 days ago. This is the UI that you get now, and when you're trying to work out what it's doing, they ask, hey, what last minute cruise options do you have to the Bahamas, and what's the weather like? Well, since we've put the plug in for weather, it will answer, well, that's the weather. I can answer that bit. And the other stuff, oh, I'm missing. Where are you going from? So it will say, hey, where are you departing from? See how clever it is? And then it will answer that part of the question. So does anyone remember this, the query execution plans? How many old people do we have? Okay. Half the room. Wow. That's amazing. So they don't have this, but they had something that reminded me of that. They have this thing called tracing mode. And when you ask this and you want to know exactly what it was doing, it has a trace mode. They should change that to query execution plan mode, shouldn't they? Then we'd all know. And then you get all this. So you can see what it's doing, and you can't do that much, but you can see what's happening, so you could add more plugins and try to help it. Now, I don't know, we actually got this going in an hour, if that, but I'm going to say you've got to talk to a product owner and explain to them, and have coffee and stuff. So I'm putting 2 developers, 2 days. So $200 an hour, or low code. These are low code people. You could probably cut that to $50 an hour. Okay. So $6,000. Now the ongoing cost. This is where things get fuzzy, because we don't know all the costs, and it's very hard to estimate the number of conversations or sessions that you're going to use. But I'm telling you that based on this link on their site, that it looks like it's $200 a month. That's what it looks like for 2,000 sessions. If you remember, I did my calculation. That would do fine for SSW for us. Now, they also mentioned that there is now a GPT mode. So that is not using GPT. If you want the big, nice answers and all that stuff, then you're going to have to pay the GPT edition. They have not told us what that's going to cost, but you know how much the OpenAI is charging, so you can kind of guess what they're going to charge. And it looks like that GPT edition is going to be $2,000 a month. That's heavy, right? Yes. Well, before that would have been nothing for you guys, but that's heavy now. So when you talk to your bosses, you have to make this decision, I guess. I'm choosing an arbitrary 3 years. I don't know how you make this cost-benefit analysis, but 3 years. I'm saying the initial development is $32K and $8K a year for development maintenance, because you need, well, that answer is BS really, because as soon as there's an API change, because this is very early days, we'll be fixing it. As soon as GPT-5 comes out, we'll be fixing it. And obviously in this one, there'll be no fixing, because every time there's a change, Microsoft are going to do it for you. This is like cheap because we're just using an app service and OpenAI. This one, it looks like they're going to be charging you something like this. If you get the GPT edition, then you can add on. So if you're happy with what I showed you in the beginning, that's going to be $20,000. If you want GPT, I don't know, but it's going to be more expensive, and substantially more expensive if you want 4. All right? GPT-4 is not going to be cheap. So something like this. If you get GPT-4 for this, it's something similar. All these numbers, don't take them with a grain of salt, but I wanted to give you the pros and cons, because my session was complete. I just looked at that presentation from Microsoft and go, wow, that's out of control productive. So we got a lot done, high ROI, low effort. All right. And the best thing is that Viking developer doesn't need to know about hosting, the API, tokens, temperature, or the playground. They're just going to use that PVA Studio and worry about adding plugins, really, and doing that execution mode. They don't need to know about embeddings, vectors, and vector databases, none of that stuff. Things are really nice. So I have a question for you. The custom one is obviously big upfront cost. This is the custom, not the Viking option, the custom one. It's got a monthly cost, it's difficult to learn, and then you've got to maintain it. But you can do whatever you want. Lots of freedom. I like freedom, I like doing things as a developer. You got the PVA, very minimal upfront. It is, if you ask me, not difficult at all. Nothing to maintain, like I should even delete that little man. It's clearly going to be more mainstream, because most big companies are just going to go with it. Who prefers, like if you had to make this for your company, would you prefer the custom mode? Or, so can I just check, how many people would use the custom mode? I have 15% of the room. How many people would go the PVA route? I think it's about 60% of the room. All right, it's hard to tell, but yeah, so look, who knows? So this is my thought. If you don't like the monthly costs, because the PVA might have monthly costs that are hard to sustain, you can still use the PVAs just to build your prototype quick, put it in, check it, and then you could build your custom solution and pay that way if you need it. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. So let's talk about the future, the last little bit. What's the future? Because there's a lot of talk, about what, we're heading to artificial general intelligence. There's going to be zero impact required to do stuff. You tell AI to write you a book and it will write you a book, okay? We haven't had one that people buy yet, but you can do it. You can tell it to develop a full software application and it will do it, okay? Almost. So there are these other companies all doing the same stuff. Google, Meta, and IBM are all competing against OpenAI. OpenAI is clearly the leader. There is one company, we have an office in China, and that company to think about is Tencent. There's quite a few doing a lot of AI in China, but that's certainly worth noticing. One of these companies could surpass OpenAI. Now, I want you to just be aware of this auto GPT You can give it a broad task and it will build a website that sells shoes. It will break all the tasks down, execute each task, combine the results. So this is the future. It's going to be able to write code, clone, push the PRs, accept the PRs, build and test, have a bug, fix it itself, write its own output. That becomes the input. Something like this. You have a developer defining a PBI. In fact, you don't need the developer. You can just get the product owner, or the CEO could sack the product owner and get rid of the developers. And from Switzerland, he is just going to... So they're going to put their PBIs in. The agent is going to pick up the task, break that down. If it doesn't know what to do, ask questions back. You're going to answer it. It will write that code, clone it, push it, create the PR, and look, clearly it's going to be like a two-headed monster that comes back if you don't have developers reviewing the code, the pull requests, and keeping monitoring of this so it's there. But this is pretty close to where you're at. Sam Altman had this quote, so I thought I'd put it in. I think we're at the end of the era where it's going to be these like giant models. Imagine Winston Churchill having like in his big statements. But he's basically saying there's big models like Bard and the GPT service, and we're more likely going to be making all these small AIs that we're going to use for different things. You might get an X-ray, and then you'll be using some X-ray, AI, and it will analyze that and tell you a lot more than what, say, a radiographer could do. I'm going to ask you if you'd like to, if you've got that app installed, inside the app you can scan this and get 1,000 points. And I'll give you a summary. So we talked through all the news, and obviously the Office product, which was already pretty phenomenal compared with the Google products, now have all this AI stuff. They got real lucky with this deal. Office, and I told you about the data products are phenomenal. You now know how important it is to be a great prompt engineer. You now know what the service does. The service does a lot. You know about embeddings and vector databases and how cool that bot is. Broadly, this is the most powerful API you will ever use. AI can pretty much do everything. So this will be the last NDC. We'll be coming back for the woodworking conference next year. But look, honestly, this is the most exciting period that I have ever been in. I think it's going to be an incredible time. I have these, a whole bunch of these, so you can come up and grab them if you like. Put them on your toilets all throughout Norway. And thank you very much.